When you now start seeing the politicization of the military, deliberately, when you have what looks like a deliberate end run around not just a concept, but a law that's been around for a long time, posse comitatus, that is a genuine effort to weaken how we have understood.
For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black.
In a country where politics often feels like a reality show that overstayed its welcome, Donald Trump continues to headline with chaos as his co-star. But when Barack and Michelle Obama step into the arena, the show transforms from confusion to comedy gold. Barack delivers cool precision, slicing through Trump's blunders with the ease of a man allergic to nonsense, while Michelle brings elegance sharpened by irony, turning every exaggeration and misstep into poetic humiliation.
Those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extreme.
Taking away our freedom to control our bodies, the freedom to become a mother through IVF like I did, those things are not going to improve the health outcomes of our wives, mothers, and daughters. Shutting down the Department of Education, banning our books, none of that will...
Barack starts by dissecting Trump's leadership like a professor grading a group project gone catastrophically wrong. He looks at the policy decisions and sees not a plan, but a collage of contradictions stitched together by ego. For every problem, there's a promise bigger than logic, and for every promise, there's a convenient villain to blame when it collapses. Barack doesn't even have to raise his voice. The comedy writes itself. Trump's presidency, to him, is what happens when a man confuses attention for accomplishment and applause for approval.
If I had sent in the National Guard into Texas and just said, you know what, a lot of problems in Dallas. You know, a lot of crime there. And I don't care what Governor Abbott says. I'm going to kind of take over law enforcement because I think things are out of control. It is mind-boggling to me.
If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Michelle joins in with her trademark calm, the kind that doesn't need volume to be devastating. She studies Trump's obsession with image and turns it into artful mockery. To her, it's like watching someone build a mirror empire. Every wall reflective, every hallway echoing the same self-praise. She doesn't need insults. She uses irony. A president so obsessed with being seen that he forgets to be understood. Under her lens, Trump's leadership looks less like governance and more like performance art with a missing plot.
Believe me, if Donald Trump is president again, at some point or another, that ugliness will touch all of our lives. And it will not matter what you look like, how you worship, who you love, or how you vote. If you don't make 6 or 8 or 12 figures, if you're not famous, if you criticize or disagree with him in any way, if he doesn't view you as his equal or relevant to his ambitions, I promise you, he will not think about you when he gets into the Oval Office.
Barack digs deeper, finding humor in the inconsistency that defines Trump's approach to facts. He compares it to a magician's act, except the trick never works, and the audience still applauds out of disbelief. Each claim bends reality a little more. Each denial comes faster than memory, and before long, truth becomes whatever fits the mood. Barack laughs at the absurdity of a president who treats accuracy like an optional subscription, renewing it only when convenient.
And the reason some people think, well, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time.
Michelle takes the cultural angle, pointing out the irony of a man who campaigns on strength but thrives on division. She sees it clearly. A presidency built on performance rather than progress, headlines over harmony. She laughs at the contradictions. A leader who promises unity while collecting enemies like trophies. For Michelle, the humor isn't an exaggeration, but exposure. The more Trump speaks of greatness, the smaller his definition of it becomes.
I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little frustrated that some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn. I hope that you'll forgive me if I'm a little angry that we are indifferent to his erratic behavior, his obvious mental decline, his history as a convicted felon, a known slumlord, a predator found liable for sexual abuse.
Barack brings his signature dry humor, marveling at Trump's ability to reinvent failure as success. Every setback becomes a spin, every controversy a badge of defiance. It's political alchemy at its most absurd, turning chaos into bragging rights. Barack finds it fascinating in the same way scientists study volcanoes from a distance, mesmerizing but dangerous to get too close. He jokes that Trump's governing style could be summed up in one rule: never let results ruin a good story. Michelle focuses on Trump's theatrical side, the grand entrances, the dramatic exits, the constant need for an audience. Trump's legacy, she suggests, might be the first presidency powered entirely by self-promotion and sheer disbelief. Barack analyzes Trump's relationship with facts as if examining a new species of rhetoric. It's part improvisation, part invention, entirely untethered from reality. He imagines future students studying Trump's speeches not for inspiration, but as cautionary tales in communication. Every phrase, he says, feels like it was assembled by a committee that never met. Barack's humor is surgical. He doesn't ridicule the man as much as he dissects the madness.
And so when I hear not just our current president, but his aides, who have a history of calling political opponents vermin, enemies, who need to be targeted, that speaks to a broader problem.
Michelle doesn't hold back on Trump's ego either. She describes it as a hot air balloon that requires constant praise to stay afloat. Every compliment is fuel, every criticism a leak. She imagines him surrounded by mirrors, talking to his own reflection for validation. For Michelle, it's not anger, it's amusement. She finds the absurdity in the self-importance, the comedy in the contradictions. Leadership, she reminds, isn't about being seen, it's about being steady. Barack moves to Trump's handling of crises. To him, it's a tragicomedy of errors where urgency meets improvisation and clarity loses every time. Michelle takes on the moral side, amused by Trump's talent for turning blame into policy. She calls it the art of finger-pointing, a craft perfected over years of deflection. Every problem has an enemy, every failure a scapegoat. For her, it's both tragic and comic, a nation run like a soap opera where the script changes depending on who's in the room. She doesn't shout her criticism, she delivers it with elegance sharp enough to draw blood.
The future. Demonizing our children for being who they are and loving who they love. Look, that doesn't make anybody's life better. Instead, it only makes us small. And let me tell you this, going small is never the answer. Going small is the opposite of what we teach our kids. Going small is petty, it's unhealthy, and quite frankly, it's unpresidential.
Barack leans into Trump's love for spectacle, laughing at how the president treats politics like a television event. He imagines cabinet meetings with commercial breaks and policy announcements delivered like cliffhangers. The audience is exhausted, but Trump? He's just getting started. In Barack's world, the absurdity doesn't need exaggeration. It's already cinematic. To her, it's like watching a talent show judged by the contestant. There's no standard but self-satisfaction. No criteria, but adoration. Michelle's wit lands with precision. She turns his insecurity into a symphony of irony. Barack steps into the economic territory, turning Trump's claims of prosperity into material for satire. He imagines graphs shaped like roller coasters, markets reacting to tweets, and economists setting alarms for drama. Under Trump, he jokes, economics has become emotional. Markets no longer move by data, but by declarations. The idea of stability becomes laughable when volatility is the brand. Barack's humor thrives in the absurd gap between image and impact.
We're at an inflection point in the sense that we always have to fight for our democracy. And we have to fight for those values that have made this country the envy of the world. And I often say democracy is not self-executing. It depends on us as citizens, regardless of our political.
Michelle adds her take on the environmental front, shaking her head with amusement at Trump's approach to nature: less stewardship, more stand-up routine. She imagines him treating climate reports like bad Yelp reviews, dismissing them with bravado instead of science. Her sarcasm is sharp but graceful, exposing the hollowness of bravado when faced with undeniable reality. The planet, she says, doesn't negotiate with ego. Barack circles back to communication, amazed at how Trump can turn any sentence into a performance. Every word carries rhythm, every pause a cue for applause. He's not giving speeches, he's conducting a symphony of self. Barack laughs at the irony of a man who speaks constantly but says so little. The humor lies not in exaggeration, but in exhaustion, the endless loop of noise disguised as leadership. To her, it's proof that volume isn't vision and chaos isn't charisma. Barack shifts to Trump's handling of public trust, laughing at how transparency becomes optional whenever convenience calls. He sees a president who treats accountability like an inconvenience rather than a duty. Every investigation is dismissed as an insult, every criticism as conspiracy. Barack turns this into satire, how a man can run the freest country on earth while being allergic to scrutiny. It's tragicomic perfection, a blend of denial and drama worthy of Shakespeare.
Like many of you, I've become increasingly concerned about the rising wave of authoritarianism sweeping the globe. We're seeing politicians target civil society, undermine freedom of the press, weaponize the justice system. And no one is being spared. Even countries that thought they were immune from wholesale assaults on democracy now understand we're all part of this struggle.
Michelle pokes fun at Trump's obsession with size, of crowds, of achievements, of imagined victories. She notes how every number seems inflated, every comparison exaggerated. It's as if reality itself isn't grand enough. For her, it's pure theater, and the audience keeps buying tickets just to see what happens next. Her laughter carries weight, the kind that says, beneath the humor lies disbelief that this is what leadership has become. Barack explores Trump's relationship with the truth as performance art. Facts, he says, don't matter when confidence is this loud. Every correction becomes an attack, every clarification an opportunity for spin. She finds it hilarious how Trump confuses dominance with decisiveness. Every decision feels like a dare, every statement a declaration of defiance. It's as if leadership is a contest of volume. Michelle's irony cuts deep. The louder he gets, the less convincing he becomes. Power, she reminds through laughter, doesn't need to scream. It speaks for itself.
California, the whole nation is counting on you. Democracy is on the ballot November 4th. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. With Prop 50, you can stop Republicans in their tracks. Prop 50 puts our elections back on a level playing field, preserves independent redistricting over the long term, and lets
Barack shifts to the subject of legacy, joking that Trump's will be measured not in achievements, but in trending topics. He imagines future generations studying his presidency the way people study viral memes, confused, entertained, but never inspired. Barack's humor is surgical, stripping away the illusion of greatness and exposing the emptiness behind the applause. The joke, ultimately, writes itself. Michelle dives into Trump's endless need for validation. She pictures him scrolling through approval ratings like a teenager checking likes. Every number matters, every dip a crisis. For her, it's both amusing and sad. The idea of the most powerful man in the world desperate for constant reassurance. She doesn't attack, she observes, and her observation alone becomes the punchline. Barack finds amusement in Trump's definition of loyalty, which seems to shift hourly. He doesn't need exaggeration. Reality is already absurd enough. Michelle laughs at Trump's communication style, calling it political jazz. No structure, just improvisation and ego. Every sentence is a solo, every topic an excuse to perform. She marvels at his ability to say everything while meaning nothing, an art form few can master. It's both dazzling and disastrous, and she can't decide whether to applaud or sigh.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
Barack focuses on Trump's use of fear as fuel. He jokes that under Trump, panic isn't a problem. It's policy. Every issue is amplified until reason drowns in rhetoric. It's leadership by adrenaline, governance by outrage. Barack's tone stays calm, which makes the contrast even funnier. Where Trump shouts, Barack shrugs. Where Trump escalates, Barack deconstructs. The comedy writes itself. Michelle takes on Trump's constant victimhood. It's a narrative so exhausting, it borders on impressive. She jokes that if grievance were currency, Trump could buy back his own scandals. Her sarcasm shines through subtlety. She doesn't mock his insecurity. She exposes it. Barack steps into the role of analyst again, finding humor in Trump's disregard for process. To him, the White House looks less like an institution and more like a startup running on chaos and confidence. For her, the real comedy isn't in his antics, but in the fact that they work. He's proof that in an age addicted to spectacle, the loudest voice often wins, even when it says nothing. Together, Barack and Michelle Obama don't just roast Trump, they redefine ridicule with intellect. They turn exaggeration into education, irony into illumination. Every line lands with precision, every joke carries truth, and every laugh doubles as revelation. Trump's presidency becomes their canvas of absurdity, painted with equal parts disbelief and brilliance. The chaos, the ego, the contradictions, all transformed into the purest form of political comedy. And when they're done, there's nothing left to destroy, only silence where the noise used to be.